Thanks for joining us today on the Big Blue Podcast. I'm Greg Stone, Southeast Campus Provost, and I'm here as always with Dr. Lee Goodson, President of Tulsa Community College. How are you, Dr. Goodson?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing really well, in part because our guest today is Keidron Dotson, Director of Enrollment Services, who's been really key in implementing the new Answer Center concept here at the college, which we're recording on a Friday. Yesterday, you presented to the Board of Regents about what's going on with the Answer Center. So I'd like to say that this was arranged with that in mind, but it's pure coincidence. But it's okay. We'll take advantage of it. And because I think there are probably a lot of people who still are kind of wondering what the Answer Center is. It seems like it's getting a little more familiar with people, but we have yet to really see it realized, but that day is coming pretty quickly.
And it was so great yesterday. We made the announcement for the Hardesty gift for the Student Success Center at West Campus. And I think they weren't quite sure why I had asked them to, I was like, you might want to stay for this. And then after they listened to your presentation, it was just really exciting for them as the donors. So
Keidron, for colleagues of ours who maybe aren't entirely familiar with the concept, just sort of give us an overview about what it is and where did this idea come from?
Sure. First, I want to say how fortunate are we to have the Hardesty family Student Success Center and a healthy philanthropic community here in Tulsa. We're so fortunate to have that. The Answer Center concept came about long before I arrived as Director of Enrollment Services. So the idea is to streamline the services of financial aid and enrollment services. Instead of students going to multiple stops, waiting in advising, waiting in enrollment services, waiting in financial aid, how can we combine those departments? That's a great idea, but when it comes down to physically how you do that, I would say it's almost like bringing two businesses together. So you have to find out what is it that you do? What do we perform well? How do you eliminate the duplication of services, and how do we bring it together to make sure that we're giving the best service to our students? You probably have seen other attempts along the way. So you look at the Welcome Centers at one point, and you look at the One Stop at the Metro campus and other attempts. You look at the Owasso Community Campus, and the difference is what happened this time is that we developed a plan that was made of how to implement this and how to roll it out. So you have to think, how do I build this with logistics, with Answer Center University, which is training, and then rolling it out to where people are constantly learning each other's jobs. So that was the idea. How do we bring it together, but how do we bring it together in the right way? And I think once we got some oomph behind it and a plan, things rolled out a lot faster.
So talk to us about how it's going to be better able to meet students' needs. If you can be a little bit specific and give us an example. And if you can compare that to our current approach of frontline services as well.
Well, actually, Dr. Goodson, it's using the software. So we're very big already with Starfish Early Alert that allows our faculty to raise flags and understand when some students may be in trouble. But the other part of that is Starfish Connect. And what that does is it connects all of that information together. So students are able now to come to campus and log into a kiosk. And in that kiosk, they can tell that system what department are they here to see, academic advising, enrollment services, or Answer Center, whatever it is. And then they're able to tell them exactly what's going on. That information is instantly transferred to an Answer Center specialist. And once they pull that information up, I can see the full picture of, has that student visited us before? What type of issues that student may be facing? In the past, we had no idea. A lot of the students would have to come to the front desk. Oftentimes, they would have to talk about their business within earshot of someone else in a frontline situation. This allows information to get to us faster. So when we see the student, we can help them a lot quicker and get them in and then get them out.
And are students going to be able to maybe fill some of that out before they even arrive there? Or do they have to wait till they get there?
Well, one of the great things is as of March 1st, then students can actually, for academic advising, can actually set appointments. But they also, from that point, from their home computers or from their phones, they can look to see how long is the wait at Southeast Campus, at West Campus, at Northeast Campus before they log in. So those are great things that we haven't been able to offer in the past that we are able to offer now.
That's great. And by the way, just another philanthropic plug, Starfish was launched here at TCC with us with an investment from the Schusterman Foundation.
Yeah. So very lucky,
yep,
very lucky,
we're
and
really
using
lucky.
that technology in the right way, for sure.
Keidron, you mentioned the Owasso campus earlier in some earlier attempts, but that's actually where you first sort of started like a pilot kind of answer center model, right?
Sure.
Back in May of 2017, I guess.
Yeah.
What have you learned since then that's helped sort of refine the process now that we're getting ready to open the new center at Southeast later this year and the West Campus and the others to follow? What have you learned from that?
Oh, so many things, Dr. Stone. When I arrived, the Answer Center in the Owasso Community Campus was still a concept. I think it started out going the right way, but what happened, I believe, is when a plan is not developed with that to carry it out all the way through, then it was an idea that kind of stalled just a little bit. What we were able to do is once we had an actual implementation and rollout plan, we had to go back and bring the Owasso campus on board with what we were doing at the Southeast campus. So that means that if I had Answer Center specialists that were out in Owasso who did not have access to financial aid screens in Banner, then you can't give financial aid information. Who didn't have access to academic screens in Banner, and Banner is our operating system that we use. So bringing them online, when we launched our Answer Center University, which is a training mechanism here for our Southeast campus, we had to bring our Owasso campus staff to the Southeast campus to make sure that they were getting the same information and the same materials as we were at first. So a lot of that, my job was finding out where are we with the Owasso Answer Center? Where do we leave off? And then how can I help pick that up and then bring them in alignment with the Student Success Center, which is at the Southeast campus, which is under construction. We're using that really as our blueprint. That is a $5.3 million project thanks to the taxpayers of Tulsa County with Vision 2025. That's a lot of responsibility to say, if you are entrusted with taxpayer dollars, can you make sure that you are able to produce a product that everyone can be proud of? So when those doors open, you have a functioning operational answer center that people can say, wow, I see the difference here, and I'm looking at the change in front of me. So bringing Owasso campus on board was one of my first goals, and still today we're making sure that they're constantly in alignment. They're set up a little differently because they serve a lot of our Owasso high schools and a lot of our rural students there. So it's a different business concept, but it's the same idea. How do we give them more services, just like if they were visiting one of our main campuses?
Well, I'm Lee Goodson here with my co-host, Dr. Greg Stone, and you're listening to the Big Blue Podcast. Our guest today is Keidron Dotson, and we've been talking about TCC's implementation of the Answer Center model for student support. So you mentioned, Keidron, the new construction at Southeast Campus. Yeah. It is really exciting. And again, thanks to the taxpayers and voters of Tulsa County for supporting that. But it was designed to include space for the Answer Center. Really, we worked the whole design around that concept. Tell us what some of the challenges in opening the first Answer Center on a main campus. What do you, as you are kind of trying to predict the future, and they have this saying, I call it the train whistle, and you can hear the train whistle.
Yeah.
So instead of waiting on the train wreck, you can hear the train whistle, right? And so what is the train whistle telling you about opening up the Answer Center there at Southeast?
It's a big job. It's a huge job. You're on the biggest stage because it's our campus with the most students and the most traffic. So one of the things that you have to make sure is that, first of all, you have to keep up with construction. You have to keep up with what facilities are aware of, what Stephen Cox, normally areas that you wouldn't have your nose in, because you have to understand how fast or how ahead are we with our training that we can be ready when the actual building opens, or how far are they behind in construction and we have a little bit more time to work on X, Y, and Z. So it really comes down to understanding, making sure that we are in alignment with building construction. The other thing with the Southeast campus, that is keeping our operations going. So I don't think a lot of people understand you can't stop our operations and go train at some remote location.
Not at all.
Not at all.
On any campus, and especially Southeast with the large numbers that we have there.
Can you imagine? I have these 8 Answer Center specialists. Half of them only know one job. The other half only know the other job with enrollment services. But I have to find a way to consistently serve our students while they are trained. And so we developed a unique plan, and we created a block schedule that says we'll take half those staff members. We'll send them up to train while the other 4 are serving students. And then on block days, we're going to swap those people out. And thank you to our Director of Financial Aid, Karen Jeffers, who really built a lot of our curriculum and our Answer Center University training to make sure that our students who were training, our staff members who were training, were actually learning the ins and out of financial aid, the financial aid regulations. So when we talk about doing that on such a large campus as Southeast, it's making sure that we can handle that volume while training at the same time. Here's what we can't risk. The people who visit our campus are not that concerned with what we have to do in order to get ready for a future project. When they arrive, they want service, and they want service now.
Right.
So we have to always make sure that we keep that as number one, and understanding that we have a huge job in front of us. You made this one of our strategic priority projects. So Dr. Goodson moved this to the top of her list to say, this is one of the areas that I want to put my focus on. That upped our sense of urgency. And while we're at it, I have to give credit because this also came from a visit, I think in about 2016 to Valencia College.
It did.
Yes, and so
it
it's Dr. Goodson who saw this model along with Dr. Jan Clayton as well and brought this idea back to TCC, and that really moved the ball rolling. So I don't ever want people to think this is a Keidron Dotson thing. The wheels were turning long before I arrived.
Well, you're doing a great job of ramping it up and promoting it too, so that people understand what it's all about.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Keidron, talk to us about how the Answer Center is going to be better able to meet students' needs than our current approach. And, you know, one word that we use now is front lines. And I know that as a vocabulary, we're trying to kind of get away from that.
Yeah.
So can you talk a little bit about how our new approach will work better for students? And then talk to us about even the language that we use when we talk about student services.
Absolutely. We revert to it very easily. It's easy to say frontline staff, frontline services. I instantly think of somebody in trenches and we're like aiming and we're on the front line of infantry or something.
Warfare.
Yeah, warfare. And I don't think that that is the method or the way that we should approach our student services. Instead, we should be welcoming. We look at the Starbucks coffee installations that are going in. We look at the new construction out at the Northeast campus with rebuilding the front door as a welcome center. We want to display that message as well, so we're not on the front lines. We are accepting students in, and in fact, literally, we're getting rid of lines. So there won't be amusement park, dwindling lines that go around and around. There will be places where students can sign in and then go back to their business until they're called to be serviced. And so I think that's one way that we can start improving the way that we call it, the way that we refer to it. We're not front lines. We're welcoming you to Tulsa Community College.
Keidron, you've been with us before, and back then I know we were asking the same question, but we'll ask it again anyway in case something's changed in the last year and a half or so since
we
you've
like
been
to
here.
compare and see if people are saying the same thing they said last time.
Yeah.
So no pressure on consistency, but if you could go back and give some advice to your 18-year-old college-going self, what would it be?
Whew. I don't know what I said last time, so I have to pull that tape. But boy, Dr. Stone, I would tell my 18-year-old self that you're about to experience things that you would have never imagined. As a first-generation student, my mother's deceased now, she would have never dreamt that I would be in this position, that I would have obtained my master's degree. I would say, just hang on. Bigger things are about to happen. And boy, you don't know what's ahead of you. So stand and get ready. One of the most beautiful things that I see is I see myself in 18-year-old students now, especially 18-year-old black males. And you almost want to look right in their eye and say, hold, bigger things are coming. Just hang on, stay the course. So that is certainly what I would say is get ready for things that you would have never imagined, and it will be worth it. It will be worth it.
That's great. Yeah, that's great. Well, thank you for being with us today. And again, and we're looking really forward to the huge launch of these answer centers. And we're already seeing some of the benefits of the practices. Yeah. And then as it's all pulled together, the benefits will be even greater. Well, you've been listening to the Big Blue Podcast. We want to thank our guest, Keidron Dotson, for spending some time with us today. And we want to thank you for listening. Remember, you can catch the Big Blue Podcast each week in the week at TCC and on the Creativity channel at YouTube. Dr. Greg Stone, thank you as always.
Thank you.
Keidron, thank you. Have a good weekend.